Hi, I'm Lance.
And I'm Joe.
And we're the SAR guys.
And today we're going to talk about something on here. What do you think, Lance?
Well, name tag would be awkward. Carabiners are kind of self-explanatory. So how about your stick?
Oh, good. That's a good thing. Like we didn't plan that, right? So today we're going to talk to you about trekking poles. And this is the way that I store my trekking pole. And we just recently had an activation last week. And I was the only one that brought a trekking pole with me. And throughout the course of the evolution, a couple of people kept saying, "Oh, I wished I had brought mine." Yeah. And so then we had a discussion about it. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So this lives on my pack, and you'll notice there's only one of them. Mm-hmm. And the reason is that over the years, I'll talk about the evolution. I started with 2 trekking poles, and I would carry them on my pack, and then I'd start to use them, and I'd have 2 of them. And in the Coast Guard, one of the things we always talked about is one hand for you and one hand for the boat. When we're out in the field, I feel like it's the same way. You get one hand for you and one hand for the team. Yeah. And so if you have 2 trekking poles and you're, in the thick brush or whatever, you're really dealing with the poles the whole time. Yeah. And so what I've evolved to is just one. Yeah. In fact, one time I was on a mission, I had 2 of them, and I got so frustrated I just dumped one of them and left it in the brush because I just didn't need 2. Yeah. But I found that you really do need to have one at various times. And yeah, there are certain situations where I like to have one. For instance, crossing through a creek. Yeah. If I need to go through a creek, I like to have, the third hand on there and have a tripod so I can have a way to steady myself while I'm, moving my foot or different feet from one place to another on there. So, and I will mention, as I was talking, I was adjusting these clamps, and if you look at the videos on YouTube and you look as you gain experience, you're going to find that these style clamps right here, where they open and close, and you can tighten them up or make them a little bit looser with these nuts. But once you get these secured, this is not going anywhere. The type that you screw in to tighten, you move them where you want and you screw them again, those things are good for a little while until they get wet, until you fall on it, or until they just plain wear out, and then they're no good. Yeah. So this style of clamp on a trekking pole is much better than other types as well.
You're ripping on my trekking pole because I'm pretty sure it's the twist type.
Well, let me ask you this. How often do you use it?
I don't. I used to. Right. I used to do it when I first got into search and rescue. My wife and I are gearing up. So we went and we bought probably the cheapest trekking poles that I could find because that's just kind of the way I operate. But I went out and I used them. I didn't mind them, but having 2 hands and the poles, dealing with the woods, and next thing you know, I'm dealing with the poles more than what I actually need. So I ditched one, and then I only had one, and which I'll use one often. It just kind of depends on whether or not I remember grabbing it out of my big bag or not. I don't leave it attached to my pack because I don't always necessarily want it. If I know that we're going to do a really long, hasty search and we're out there for a long time, I'm going to grab it. If it's just a short amount of time, I'm not going to mess with it. But on the Oregon coast, we have a lot of briars. And so we're going through either salmonberries or blackberries, and it's awesome to take that thing right in front of me and use it to break everything around, and use it more as like a shield and, get things out of the way, or pushing away blackberry vines so they get wrapped onto you, and then if you grab them. So that part's really nice. But I would say more often than not, I leave mine behind now. It's one of those pieces of gear. Are they good to have? They're good when you want them or when you need them, but you don't always need them. And I should probably put mine on my pack. I just don't.
Right. So for me, a couple things we'll talk about. First of all, there is a proper way to hold these. There are some features that we like. I mentioned the clamps. I like a cork handle.
I don't have that either.
You get a good grip on it. And then when you hold it, you put your hand, some people say go through the bottom and come up. The real key is that you have this the strap here, the lanyard, between your thumb and your forefinger on that. That way, if you're walking along, you dangle and you drop it, you're fine. If you've got it any other way on there, like this, and you drop it and dangle it, it's going to fall off and you're going to lose it. So they talk about having it, and you can also put your weight on this strap as well.
Like a stirrup.
Like a stirrup. And so I don't really use this going uphill very much, but when I'm going downhill, I really rely on it a lot. I'll use it to poke the ground and find a good foothold, or just get it stuck in there while I move my legs down. But look at how I'm holding it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I do. And I'm sure that's what they put this little pommel here for, it's for when I'm going downhill and I need to plant that thing and lean on it.
Joe's Jake brake.
Joe's Jake brake. There you go. But then I do that. And, in this last activation, when we were going back up the hill, I didn't need it. I was getting ready to put it away, and somebody said, "Hey, can I use that?" Yeah. And 2 different people ended up using this on the way up. I don't like it on the way up. When I'm going uphill, I'm grabbing onto ferns and trees and other kinds of things. But I really use it going downhill.
Absolutely.
Main thing, going downhill and crossing through creeks and things like that.
Yeah.
So, and I like to carry it on my backpack, as I mentioned. When I had 2 of them on there, I found one on each side. They would tend to get caught in the bushes as I was going through. And this one does get caught every once in a while, but not that frequently. I can make it small enough and then tuck it in between everything else on there.
Yeah. It's kind of like everything else. You have to know your tools and know the upsides and the downsides. A lot of search and rescue and the gear that we use, there's a lot of give and take to everything that we do.
Right.
Do I want a full cooking stove and all of that? Or do I want a slimmed down version? Do I want a big cup? Do I want a little cup? Do I need a first aid kit that a paramedic could use? Or do I just need, some bandages and SAM splints and something pretty low key? And so everything has its positives and everything has its negatives, and you have to balance it and say, okay, what Joe balances and what Lance balances aren't always going to be the same thing.
Right. And it's just personal preference, and there's that joke about, what starts on 4 legs and goes to 2 and then 3.
I don't know that joke.
You don't know that joke?
I don't.
Well, you should probably go look it up then. I'm not going to go there, but I will tell you I'm in the 3-legged stage.
All right.
All right. Well, I hope you got a little kick out of that. No, I hope you got a little information there. And, trekking poles, figure out what works for you. That's really the bottom line. Absolutely. If it works for you, use it. 2 poles doesn't work for me. 1 pole works excellent for me. No poles doesn't work for me either. Yeah. So there we go.
Yeah. Just like we always say, know your gear and know how to use it and know what's best for you.
Right.
So hopefully we see you out on the trail.